Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for today is May the 8th. We are reading together Psalm 56. The 56th Psalm is titled by the translators for a call for God's protection. And we have within this Psalm the superscription, which says, "For the choir director, according to a silent dove far away, a miktam of David, when the Philistines seized him in Gath." This particular psalm has the historical context that is found in 1 Samuel chapter 21 and verses 10 through 15. This is during the course of David's life whenever he is on the run from King Saul, and he's going about from place to place, and he ends up finding himself in the Philistine city of Gath. What is the problem here? Well, this just happens to be where old Goliath is from. So you would think that this is not a good place for the Goliath slayer to be. King Achish of the Philistines sees him and says, isn't this the guy that it's written about that Saul has killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands? Is this not him? And David ends up feigning insanity in order to spare himself from any sort of trouble with the Philistines. So this psalm is written with that historical context in mind. Let's consider this psalm a psalm that I would probably consider one of those lament confidence psalms, that there are elements of lament that are followed up by confidence and back and forth within this psalm. I'd probably say that's what I would classify this psalm as here, Psalm 56. So let me get the text up on the screen and we'll read along together here, Psalm 56, beginning in verse number 1. Psalm 56, beginning in verse number 1. Psalm 56, verse number 1, "Be gracious to me, God, for a man is trampling me. He fights and oppresses me all day long. My adversaries trample me all day, for many arrogantly fight against me. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? They twist my words all day long. All their thoughts against me are evil. They stir up strife. They lurk. They watch my steps while they wait to take my life. Will they escape in spite of such sin? God, bring down the nations in wrath. You yourself have recorded my wanderings. Put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Then my enemies will retreat on the day when I call. This I know, God is for me. In God, whose word I praise. In Yahweh, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mere humans do to me? I am obligated by my vows to you, God. I will make my thanksgiving offerings to you. For you rescued me from death, even my feet from stumbling, to walk before God in the light of life." And that is Psalm number 56. Again, a psalm that is written with the historical context of David being pursued by Saul, finding himself in further enemy territory in the Philistine city of Gath. King Achish is ready to take down the Goliath slayer, and yet David feigns insanity and is rescued by God from this ordeal. A crazy, crazy chapter in David's life, him running from Saul, but one that hopefully you remember from reading last year in our daily Bible reading, but one certainly where we can tell that God was with David and provided for him all along the way. Beginning here in Psalm 56, we have a callback to Psalm 51, where we read, "Be gracious to me, God." If you remember that from Psalm 51, that grace was a request from David because he had sins and he needed God's grace to be forgiven of that sin. Here, it is not that David has sinned, but instead that he is facing a different type of trouble. It is trouble from people who are trying to take his life. So be gracious to me, God, for a man is trampling me. He fights and oppresses me all day long. My adversaries trample me all day long, for many arrogantly fight against me. We have a man. He's referenced with a pronoun, and later on in verse number 1, We read about adversaries, verse number 2, that many are against him in verse number 2 as well. So it's not just one enemy, it's many enemies. And what are they doing? They're trampling him, they're fighting against him, they're oppressing him, they're trampling him again. They are arrogantly fighting against me. So David here has his hands full with those who are seeking his destruction, who are wanting him to be overcome. So what does he do in this moment? What could anyone do in a moment when enemies are against them and he is in fear for his life? David says, when I am afraid, recognizing my circumstances, which would put fear in anyone, naturally so. When I am afraid, this is where David goes, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I would make a connection here with verse number 9, which talks about this I know God is for me. I think there's a good connection there that he will trust in God because he knows that God is for me. In God, verse number 4, kind of the refrain, the chorus of this particular psalm. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust, I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? There is an element here. I like this phrase. I heard somewhere of faithful defiance. There is a faithful defiance here by David in the face of his enemies, that he is not afraid of his enemies. He is not worried about them because he knows that God is with him and that God will bless him and strengthen him. Sorry, I'm going to adjust the camera really fast. That God will be with him and bless him and strengthen him to be able to overcome the enemies that he is facing. Again, on one hand, you have the enemies. On the other hand, he has his deliverer, who is God. Who does he have more confidence in? Does he have more confidence in the evil and the power of his enemies, or in the graciousness and merciful nature of his God? Certainly, we see here David has more concern and more confidence in God's grace than he does in the evil character of his enemies. But that doesn't mean that the situation is just gone. I mean, the trouble still remains. We see that in verses 5 through 7. You know, they twist my words. Their thoughts are all their thoughts against me are evil. They stir up strife. They wait to take my life. You know, they're against me, and David recognizes that again. Verses 5 and 6 go well together. They expound upon and unpack what David is facing in verses 1 and 2. But here's verse number 7. Here is this faith and this confidence that David has in Yahweh. Will they escape in spite of such sin? God, bring down the nations in your wrath. He knows that God is just. And he's kind of asking there, will they escape in spite of such sin? You know, aren't you just, God? Well, of course you are. Therefore, bring down the nations in wrath. For you are aware. That's how I would define the lines of verse number 8, that God is aware. You yourself have recorded my wanderings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? There's a good connection there between the language at the beginning of verse number 8 and what we see at the end of verse number 8. You have recorded my wanderings. Are they not in your book? That is a theme that we see throughout Scripture of God's book. That just a way for us as finite humans to comprehend the reality that God sees everything. There is nothing that escapes his sight. Everything is written in his book. So knowing that God sees everything, knowing that God is aware, he says, my enemies will retreat. Notice that language, not he hopes they will retreat. No, he says, my enemies, they will retreat. David has great confidence in what God is going to do for him. My enemies will retreat on the day when I call. This I know. I love the confidence at the end of verse number 9. This I know. God is for me. The refrain, the chorus, in God, whose word I praise, and Yahweh. Now he includes the covenant name of Yahweh. I love that. In Yahweh, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? So again, who is David most concerned with? What men can do to him, that their evil character and what they might do to him, or the gracious, faithful character of his God? He is more concerned with his God. I would equate this language of, in God I trust. What can people do to me? I would I would almost make it akin to what Jesus says in the Gospels. Don't fear those who can kill the body, but fear the one who can kill both body and soul in hell. So be more concerned with God. Now, verse number 12 and 13 tells me that God did not leave David, that God did show David graciousness. I am obligated by vows to you, God. I will make my thank offerings to you, for you rescued me. What he asked in verse number 1 has now been responded to and seems to be fulfilled in verse number 13. You rescued me from death, even my feet from stumbling, to walk before God in the light of life. Again, within this psalm, we have those often intertwined elements of lament and confidence. He's lamenting his current circumstances, that he's being trampled, that he's being oppressed, that people are arrogantly fighting against him. He laments the fact that they're twisting his words, that they're stirring up strife, that they're waiting to take his life. Yes, he laments these things, but he has great confidence in his God that when he is afraid, he will trust in God. On the day when I call, this I know, God is for me. Such great confidence that God is aware, verse number 8, and that he will be just in bringing down the evildoer, those who are enemies of his anointed king, those who seek to take the one through whom the Messiah will eventually come. Great psalm here, Psalm 56, that should fill us with confidence when we feel as if we are afraid. We feel as if enemies are closing in around us. Let us have the confidence of David to know this with certainty, that God is for us. If you have any questions or comments about Psalm 56, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me on this Wednesday. If there was a little glitch there in the audio or in the video, I apologize. Zoom tried to go out on me. I tried my best to kind of keep the sentence going, so I apologize for that little glitch if you did catch it. I want to offer a very happy birthday. A couple of very happy birthdays. Let's see here. It is Bill Simpson's birthday today. Happy birthday to you, Bill. And then tomorrow is Karen Berry's birthday. Very happy birthday to Karen tomorrow. Very happy birthday to Bill today. Hope y'all have great birthdays. And I appreciate you reading along with me on this Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing everybody tonight for our monthly song, scripture, and supplication service. Should be a very encouraging night together. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. Hope that you'll be back again on Friday as we read together from Psalm 57, Praise for God's Protection, another Miktam of David, this time when he fled before Saul into the cave. Looking forward to reading that with you on Friday. Take care and God bless.